Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 446. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. It's not easy being green, so says the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin, Duke of You Know, and the elder statesman of the podcast.
How's it going, eh?
On this episode, we are talking the Green Lantern books. We've spent a lot of time talking about the great book Omega Men lately, but on this episode, we're going to jump to the regular Green books and talk about Green Lantern 44, Green Lantern Lost Guardians, number 4. We're going to talk about Sinestro, number 15. So we're going to be touching base with all three of those books. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network, the League of Comic Book Podcasts, and the InfiniteComics.com podcast partnership. Mr. Segulin, we are supported on this episode by DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, it's that time of the month where the end of the month's coming along and we are shifting over to the brand new deals that are coming. In Jim's case, the bundles.
But
there's all kinds of amazing deals, but also the new product. It's a chance to see what kind of products coming out, trades, hardcovers, monthly issues, statues, toys, all the things we know and love are coming out, and DCBService.com is your pre-order source for that. Remember, they are a digital partner. Whether you're doing My Digital Comics or Comixology, make sure to link those accounts. Make sure to shop through DCBService.com. 5% of those purchases go towards your DCB service order, so make sure to do that. Doesn't cost you anything more. Over at InStockTrades.com, they have got the deals of the week. One of them is the Joker Endgame hardcover. It's 50% off, only $14.99. I'm looking at the books that have been released recently. Astro City Confession hardcover, new edition of that's out. It's 45% off, only $13.74. Why the Last Man trade paperback, book 3, 45% off, only $10.99. InStockTrades.com is your collected edition source, whether you like hardcovers or trade paperbacks. It's your spot to go to find those, always at an amazing deal. Remember, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping, and that's InStockTrades.com. I want to thank both of those companies for continuing to support our show. James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Got to wipe off my shoe. I think I stepped in some whatnot. Let's talk some comics.
Our first discussion will be on Green Lantern, number 44. The writer is Robert Venditti. Pencils by Billy Tan and Martin Coccolo, Coccolo. Inks by Mark Irwin with Martin Coccolo, with colorist Tony Avena. Letterer is Dave Sharp. Cover by Tan and Avena. The Green Lantern 75th anniversary variant by Howard Chaykin. Assistant editor is Andrew Marino with group editor Eddie Berganza.
This book has become really, really, really good. It was funny when the direction changed and we knew Hal was going to be on the run. I don't want to say I wasn't excited about it. I wasn't kind of thinking it through how this would really play out and what it would mean. I guess I didn't really understand what was happening to the rest of the Lanterns, because that really has made this, for me, pretty pivotal. The fact that what's going on with the rest of the Lanterns. And I love the fact that the ship has this personality that he's traveling in. You know, it's not just a ship. It's got some swagger. But also the mix of, he's got this truly, like, kind companion, and then this one that's really a smuggler, criminal kind of guy. But yet on some levels, there seems to be more to him than that, too. I find that I'm interested in the whole supporting cast that's traveling with Hal from place to place. This really has become a must-read title. I jump to it every month. Green Lantern always has been, since, Johns took over and did the whole rebirth thing for me. But this has continued that legacy of, wow, status quo change that really keeps the momentum going and keeps this a must-read book. There's a real sense of progression here for Hal, and I really love it. I also love that we learn more about the Gauntlet in this issue in a way that was really interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy being green. And it's kind of neat seeing Hal still have his swagger, still have his, persona that is Hal Jordan that makes him cool. But we are seeing him, in a different light. We're seeing him deal with different things, and just the fact that he's got these multiple mysteries of what is going on with the Lantern. But as he's going on, he's still a Lantern. He's still the Code. He still is a member of the Corps. So I like seeing this Hal Jordan on the run, but he's really helping people. It's kind of a neat story with him in space.
Yeah, that's the part that I'm really digging. I always like the space part of the DC universe because it's different. You and I have been talking a lot on recent episodes about how we're really enjoying books that are a different flavor, something unique to it. We're not talking about Omega Men on this episode because we've been talking about it so much recently. We're actually going to I want to talk about the next issue of it when it comes out, just because I love that book's been saved, that it's going to go at least 12 issues. And I really want to take some time promoting that book because it's one of my favorites. And I think it's if you haven't been reading it, that book was saved because of fan response. So each and every one of you out of there, I know we had listeners in our Facebook group who posted the suggestion, hey, start writing DC messages. I know that was happening all over the place. A lot of our fellow podcasters were doing that. A lot of fans of the book were doing that. And I really think it says a lot about the comic book community, not just ours globally, that everyone just started rallying behind a title that they really liked. It shows the power of, if you are enjoying a title, please speak up about it. Forget the ones that you're not digging. Really support the ones that you're loving and get the word out that people should be reading them. Whether it's the title that you think has the biggest sales figures or the smallest, get the word out that this is a title that's valid and worth saving. And if you think they're putting a book that you love on the chopping block, let them know. Because they're listening. They're listening to the fans, and I really admire that. I love that this DCU initiative is causing a fan outreach, and I love that fans spoke up and spoke about Omega Men. And I speak about Omega Men a part of this because it really is a part of this whole green universe and what I'm loving about it right now. I love the space part of DC right now. I just think so much politics goes on with the different cultures that we see in these books. And we're seeing new villains arise. This issue in particular had some new villains come up. Hal lands somewhere and he's expecting one thing because it used to have a Green Lantern in that sector. Green Lantern's not there. All of a sudden, the criminals crop up and they take over. And we get to see some awesome Thanagarians, which I love too.
Yeah, I chuckled when the first signs of them flying off. I'm like, ooh, Thanagarians. They're probably not the good guys. And it was, again, it's this grand space opera that they're really taking advantage of. And by having Hal in space, by not having him with any of the Earthbound heroes, they're giving the creative team a good chance to do some neat different stuff. And it was funny because when we first see the emergency stop, when we first see they're on the planet and all that, it's just the way the place is drawn, the way everything is, you've got that ominous just going on. Something ain't right here, especially when the little girl, he bends down, he's got the Hal Jordan, hey, how you doing? Kind of, and she's like, ah, and she just runs away yelling guests. Like, oh, this is not good. This is not good. And then, of course, leading to some really cool visual stuff of the underland of this, planet where you see this little disgusting little troll looking type creature who you're like, okay, this is your big bad. Something's not good here. And this was one of those really neat visual treats, but also, a cool story being laid out as just piece goes on, one piece leads to another. You kind of know where it's going to go, but when you get there, you're still happy.
I love when he's talking to Trapper and we see him putting the bracelet on him and talking about, hey, this is what's going to happen. And just so you know, the bracelet isn't just here to keep you from running away. It's to make sure you don't shoot me in the back, because if you do, you're done. And it really is kind of a way of saying, look, this is the way things are going to go. I need to protect Virgo. I need to protect myself. I want you to know what the game is. And here's the thing. I see the relationship between... this is one of those I'd love to see animated. Remember the animated series where we had Hal traveling around? I was thinking of that when I was reading this. I'm like, this is exactly what I loved about the animated series. You start to see bonds form in ways... Remember the Red Lantern in that one that was all of a sudden becoming a part of the team? This feels like that, and I don't mean that it's a carbon copy of the cartoon. I don't mean it that way. What I love about this, though, is it has those elements that I like when you start putting a team together of unlikely partners. you start to see that they begin to understand each other and start to respect the cultural differences, and from a very extreme situation starts to grow into something very interesting. And this book has those elements. This would make a great animated series.
Yeah, and it was, that sequence you're talking about was a really cool, just funny moment, but not take away from, the action, take away from the story. Because I love how Hal is just saying, yeah, you're going to get hit with just a charge. Now it's going to, tense up and seize all the muscles. Well, maybe not your heart, depending if I guessed your weight right. You're what, 185 pounds? He's like, what's a pound?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because you know what? A lot of times in comics, you just kind of naturally go to, everybody knows our measurement systems. Yeah. Well, if on Earth, our measurement system, the pounds, aren't standard measurements around the world even. So I love that this book takes it one step further and goes, why would we think it's the same in the universe? That was really great, very tongue-in-cheek. And they don't overdo that. To your point, that was a kind of a very small part of it, but it added a charm. It added a reality to it for me in a way that I loved. I loved the forward-thinking dialogue of this. Venditti, and I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right, is really a writer who I just watch because of that. I mean, I love the fact that Venditti is one of those writers that's going to do a great story. I love his Exo-Man of War work. I love his work here. He's a writer that I follow for name alone. The Flash. I mean, the work on The Flash right now is phenomenal. It's just book after book of great character development. And he really knows the main characters well. Like, this so feels like Hal to me. The fact that Hal's got the longer hair and the gauntlet now, it doesn't matter. This is Hal going off in space on the mission. He totally feels like the same voice that Jeff Johns was using back when, from Rebirth straight on through. That's important to me. It's really important to me when a writer really understands the voice of the character. Like, I've got in my mind a Hal Jordan voice. You always talk about your voices. I just, Hal's got a certain, I don't mean like I'm going to a certain actor or anything like that. I don't mean it that way. Hal has a certain voice to me. This really represents that. I love Space Cop. It's really great Space Cop.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely with Hal and the voice. It's got to have a little bit of, it's got a swagger in his tone. Just in the way he talks, the guy's got style and he's got the groove going. So, and I agree with you. There's always just that voice. And this guy that we're seeing here has that same type of swagger. Even just him in his interactions with his ship sometimes, which is like, oh yeah, Hal Jordan has a plan. A ship with sarcasm is awesome. And just Hal's going through. And in his head, does he actually have a plan? No. He's kind of improvising. Improvises, adapts, overcomes. That's part of the coolness of Hal Jordan. But throughout this issue, throughout all the past issues, it's always felt like Hal. I've never had those moments. I've had those disconnects. And with that's something that I'm really happy that even when he was leaving the Corps, even when he did the quote-unquote double cross that we knew wasn't really a double cross, but still it had to be done. Even then, he still was Hal Jordan. It was just, there was some really cool moments, and I don't know. I kind of like just, again, little stuff with little art moments, especially like when they go into the doctor's office. They're first sitting there, they're like, oh, beds are full, slam the door shut, because they know what's coming. The residents know what's coming.
Yeah, visitors. You don't want to be a visitor.
Yeah. But I love the look of kind of terror in their eyes as those before moments when they're huddled up together. This was one of those really cool art moments working with the stories, because you hear them talking. They're not going to come here. They're not, probably not. They're just probably seeking fuel and provisions. And then when you get that knock on that look on his face, like, look on his face was really, really cool. It was. I'm really digging this. Again, this art team as well as working with the writing team.
I agree. I want to step back just a little bit, and I don't want to ignore what you just said, because I think the area where you're going is great. I'm looking at that page, the Planet Gallon, the space port spire, where you see the spaceport there. I think because I'm so Star Wars happy right now, I really appreciate when artists create different spaceships, to showcase these are different cultures that are going to be coming here. So the ships they travel in are going to be different, but also that they all aren't super clean, if you get what I'm saying. Like, some of them look a little dinged up. They look like they have, they've been traveling through space. These are used ships. So they look that way without, they look like a car would. There's the diversity in the ships the same way there's diversity in our automobiles. I love that attention to detail. It really adds a reality to the whole spaceport thing. And I do love when you're talking about the cultures and you start seeing the way that they're reacting to, like, this guy's a doctor. And it's clear that being a doctor means something to him, but yet he's been under the thumb of these oppressors and knows that there's going to be ramifications of doing this. There's a fear level to it. It's only the Green Lantern symbol on Hal's gauntlet that even opens the door internally to them opening up their minds to the possibility that maybe this could all come to an end. Maybe this is the opportunity that we never dared to hope for. And that was really a key there. They never dared to hope for the chance of a rebellion from this because their Green Lantern vanished and that was it. But that symbol means something because of the fact it represents a time where there was some order and life was good because of it. Really interesting. It's funny when we talk about Sinestro after this. It's going to be interesting to talk about the similarities in many ways to what's going on between the two books from a very different angle.
One of the things that's just cracking me up when I keep thinking about this is when they're talking about guests, and I'm just imagining a dancing teacup. Be our guest, be our guest.
We're going Disney on this one.
Yeah.
Disney presents Green Lantern. Wouldn't Marvel be mad?
Oh yeah.
I love their version of Thanagarians. For a lot of the reasons that I'm stating here. The Thanagarians with the customized, like not every one of them has the same kind of wings or even the same armor. I always liked Hawkman with the very gritty armor. Like, my issue with the New 52 Hawkman is not how they were writing the character. I actually started to like that more and more as it was going on. My problem was that golden suit that he had was too clean. Like, Hawkman's gritty to me. When you see these guys come down, I'm like, yes, that's Thanagarians to me. That's what I want to see. And I really loved how they got that. I know that they're supposed to be Thanagarian thugs and all that, and they're going to be even a little bit more rough than Hawkman is, and I do get that part of it, and I don't want him to look exactly like him. But you know what I mean? You get that look, they're like real, they're gritty, they're tough. There's something about that. They feel more like they're part of a planet that is warriors. That part I really like. That clean look doesn't give that to me. It's too Excalibur. Right. And I like Excalibur, but that doesn't work for Hawkman.
No, I get you. Hawkman's more of a gladiator than a knight. And you need to have that grit. You need to have that grime. You need to have that little bit of. You got to have a little stank on it. And these guys definitely. And
See, this is it. I love this now because there was a point where you didn't get Hawkman. Now that you do, and you so totally get the part that I like about it, it's really fun to talk Hawkman with you because you get it. That is the character, gladiator. Absolutely. Thinking back to, you think of that Gladiator movie? I'm thinking of the lead in that, and the way that whole movie went down. I'm like, yes, that's very Hawkman. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I get the groove of Hawkman now. I'm still going to rip on him every so often, but I get the groove. And the thing I like about...
And I'd like to give you a talking to after you do. You said, what now?
As long as he doesn't go tweet, 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 I'm okay.
I hope he does that, and I hope you respond to it.
In between the tweets, he smacks me in the head. Tweet, bam, tweet, bam, tweet, bam. How's that for tweeting?
That's funny.
Going back to our Thanagarian thugs here. Mm-hmm. I like that we've got some obvious, home remedies and some other gritty modifications done to them. This is definitely, they've been augmented on this planet for these purposes and for things, because you start looking at them, there's clean and gritty and, but then there's also just kind of messed up at times. And you look at them and you kind of, it looks like they've had some home remedies done to them and some various, just, that whole, when you're the Marauder, when you're stealing parts from here, you're stealing parts from there, and you kind of got a hodgepodge of stuff. And I kind of like that look with these guys, especially with who they are.
I do too. I'm just amazed looking at this artwork because I'm going on the second page after we see them fly in for the first time. I love when artists manage to, like, Hal's looking out the window.
Yeah.
And you can actually see the window effect over him. Where you see reflection off the window from the other side. I love those details because you can see the buildings from outside reflected, or, the landscape from the outside reflected on the window. I marvel at that. It adds a realism to me and more of an effect that this is something that's actually happening. I love that detail. There are some amazing artists in comics now that are really spending a lot of time when they have to get these out on a tough deadline, putting in the occasional special effect, which I know has to take them more time and more work to do it. And it's the whole art team that's responsible for that paying off the way that it does. I appreciate those tiny details so much more. I think because we've been fortunate enough to talk to some really great artists on the show who have been willing to spend time educating us, and colorists, on the work that goes into putting all that together, especially when there's a page with effects.
Yeah, and especially in that page that you're talking, that panel, I like how we have the reflective thing, but also you can see them kind of like a shadow image of them flying in the background. Within the reflection, you kind of can see them soaring in the air. But also our good doctor there. I like, he's got multiple hands. So he's got the one where he's kind of got him on his head going, oh no. Then he's got the other ones doing the kind of crossed-fingered, worried look. And once again, really cool look on his face of terror, that you're getting. And this is in a reflection. So they're even making sure that putting it in there. That was, for me, that was a really cool panel because, one, I agree with you on the window effect, but also just the level of detail they put into that window effect. That was awesome.
Yeah. It's all really great. I love the amount of personality shown on characters, like when we've got Trapper picking his teeth and stuff like that. I mean, there's personality that dwells on through. You've got the alien doctor. You've got the little kid. What is his wife? Or I don't know what's going on there. Nurse? I don't know. I don't know who that is, but she seems much younger than him because of the size. I don't know what's going on there. Because she doesn't have the same number of arms he does. So I don't know if they're the same species or if there's different variations of that species. See, that's the stuff I'm loving. I love, as I'm looking through these, trying to figure out who's who and who's part of what culture. This is very Star Wars. In the sense that I'm thinking of Mos Eisley. I've always liked, I'm a big Star Trek fan, I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I've never been one of Star Trek versus Star Wars. One of the things I really liked about the original Star Wars movie, The New Hope, was how gritty Mos Eisley was when you saw those, the gathering of the various races. It just gave it a sense of, this is a spaceport. It would be used a lot. It's on a desert planet. It would need all of that. So I do like that this world feels, it is a dirtier world. And it feels that way in here, especially with the fact that there's no law at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Mos Eisley is a good comparison of this place. And again, the Star Wars theme is that same style with this book. It's it has those kind of moments. I loved the calm before the storm, where Hal is where they're explaining to Hal what's going on, where they're saying, hey, we didn't want to set you up. We have to keep this port open or they'll kill us. It's very simple, and you kind of just see Hal reacting. And of course, when the bad guys finally find them, like, yeah, we got them, all right. They don't know what's coming, and it's a city bus. And I always love when we get these moments of either a big train or a big bus that comes flying out of nowhere and just smashes into people. But again, little art notation. I love the fact that it's got Coast City Transit written on the side of the bus, because once again, Hal would put those little details. Hal would put those. It's not just the big bus. It's a Coast City bus hitting them.
I want to know the backstory of these Thanagarians, a little bit. I want to know why there's the wing differences in that. What does it represent? Why do they have that? Is it because they have broken off from the main planet and they're kind of doing their own thing that they had to do that? I don't know. I get fascinated by that kind of stuff. These characters, I want to know the backstory of this planet. I know they aren't things we're going to get, but as I read the story, I want to know the backstory of Hal's traveling companions. They've become very interesting to me. And I want to know the backstory of the ship.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Backstory stories I would love to have on everything you said. And with the Thanagarians, the way I took it, that the difference in the wings are because, as I said, they're the Marauders. They're freelancing. So when something breaks, they got to improvise, take something around it. But you take the one dude who's got I guess you call them stereo speakers for a chest. The Sonic guy, he's got more solid metal going on. And I'm thinking that's because of the amount of energy he puts off, and he needs to have a more solid wing base. And it was kind of neat because right before he does that firing, I like the fact that he says, turn off your ears. So he's throwing out a sound check to his crew so that they don't get blasted by this. but, and then fires. I thought that was a really neat thing to put on there. Just a kind of a, once again, this is a team that's fighting together. They've been in combat for a while. They've done this multiple times. Yeah, they're now dealing with somebody who's got some lantern power, so they know they got to turn it up a notch. I think that's kind of cool, where you get this team dynamic within a villain band. It makes sense because they've been doing this for a while. They're going to work together. They're going to have game plans. They're going to have strategies.
One of the things that I love about this book is when we learn about the gauntlet. First of all, I got to say, I'd be remiss if I don't talk about this. Want to take it to the sky? I own the sky. What a great moment. Here's the thing. If they kept Hal on with the gauntlet on indefinitely, I'm a happy camper because I love the story of... This is what I loved about when Kyle had the white ring. I felt like in every issue of that, we were gradually learning something more about what he needed to do to be a White Lantern. In this case, with the gauntlet, we're learning that Hal, it's a new experience for him. Because of his experience as Lantern, he's better able to control that gauntlet, but that gauntlet's like ready to explode with power at any point in time. He actually has to constantly use his willpower to keep it from doing that. Yeah. So it really is a whole different level for him. In many ways, I can't help but wonder if at the end of this, Hal will just be an even better Lantern because of it.
Oh, God,
the discipline that's had to go along with this in order to do that. I mean, it's become a really cool story element. And to me, it's further progressed Hal as a character. It's added more of a sense of, we talk about continuity all the time and how we love that and how we love progression. You got to be digging this because this really is character progression.
Oh, God, yeah, big time. And just, the stuff you said about with where he's explaining and going into more depth about what's needed for the gauntlet. Because, initially you would think, okay, with the gauntlet, because it's the early version, it wouldn't be as cool or as good as the rings. It would be more of a turn on and fire kind of gun mentality, but it's actually more intense than the rings. It's where he, as you say, it needs that constant state. Even when it looks like it's not turned on, it's really up and running and it's actually functioning. And I thought that for me was a kind of a cool just statement. And to think about just, eventually if he does ever put down the gauntlet and gets a ring back, he is going to be so much stronger with that ring, just because you figure the ring's, in a way easier to use. The ring we've seen in the past takes a lot of willpower and a lot of discipline to do it. Here, he's now been working out with, working out his mental muscles, and with this gauntlet. So if he ever goes back to the ring, and I do say if, because I'm not 100% certain I want him going back to the ring. I kind of like this Hal Jordan. But if he ever does go back, he's really going to be the best of the best.
Yeah. In many ways, it shows that he already is. But yet he's going somewhere further because of it. I absolutely adored that part of it. I love the constructs, the huge constructs. Trapper coming out there, the two of them buddy copping it together. I so want to see Trapper become one of the good guys. I just do. I like Trapper right now in a very short time.
I like the fact that Trapper lit him up and just started killing. Like, hey, you can't kill. What? Really? Okay. So we're going for style points now. And that, again, the character Trapper is a kind of a neat guy that... part of me does want to see him turn good, and part of me does want to see him... But part of me, I don't think he's going to. I really think in the end, Trapper is going to be Trapper. Maybe Hal might let him, give him like a head start, but he's still going to be a bad guy, I think, in the end. He's going to be maybe one of those bad guys that kind of has a code, but doesn't, and I don't know. He's one of those characters that I definitely want to see where he goes. He's one of the, I think I'm more curious and caught up with him than the other guy. And the other guy's cool. I like him, but for some reason, I think, and it's probably because Trapper's more gritty, more, he's the bad guy, and he's kind of interesting in those light, but I don't know. I think I'm more attached to him.
I'm attached to both. I think what it is Virgo's been down for a while, so we've been more focused on Trapper because Virgo was out of it. But you got to remember that great issue with Virgo where Virgo had to make the decision between revenge and sparing Trapper.
Right.
And he made that decision, and he had to work through that with Hal. And I remember Hal made that bit where he's like, I was going to stop you anyway, but I needed to let you work through it. That made me really a fan of Virgo. here's the thing. Now we have a chance, now that Virgo's back up and running, to your point, to see the three of them together and what that dynamic is like. It's probably going to have its ups and downs. I'm fascinated by that. This feels very much like a group on the Millennium Falcon. And that's what I love about it. I loved that because that wasn't always clean either. Trapper's going to be Han Solo snarky, and I love that.
Oh, come on! If Hal's Han Solo.
Well, but he doesn't. Yeah. He's not going to have the same snark that Trapper's going to. If you get where I'm going for on that one, if you're talking about the super cool factor, Hal's got it. You're right, and I agree with you 100% on that one. But Han had that little snarky side of him that Hal doesn't have. Not to the same level. I'm going back to the first Star Wars when they first met him and the way that he carried himself. I think Trapper's going to be that guy.
Definitely could be. Yeah,
because Hal's immediately the good guy. Remember, Han Solo wasn't that at first.
True. I'll give you that. Okay, I see what you're saying here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just. Here's the thing. To your point, I actually like that they aren't really those characters.
Yeah.
There are these characters going through that. But I love the fact that this ship has that kind of... It's not a clean personality to it. Whereas, I think it's why I'm going more Star Wars than Star Trek. Star Trek, because of the more military aspect of it, everybody's a part of Starfleet, it's very clean and regimented. And when you introduce an alien into it, that clean and regimented environment has to react to that. In this case, this is not a clean and regimented environment at all. Which... Green Lantern, in many ways, can be very Star Trek at times because of the organization aspect of the Green Lantern Corps. But in this case, it's shifted from Star Trek to Star Wars. And I love that. I love that Green Lantern is a very flexible, malleable book in its presentation because of it.
See, Trapper is Jane from Firefly.
Oh, yeah.
That's who Trapper is right there.
I would agree.
I think this is more of a Firefly universe than a Star Wars universe, which, again, the Firefly universe for me had those same kind of that Star Wars-esque feel to it where they're, the space travel and that, just that grand space opera type of thing, going on. So yeah. Now, with the bracelet that Hal put on him, do you think that's a bluff or do you think that's real? Because I'm thinking bluff, to be honest with you. I think it's a bluff. I think it's a Hal Jordan just,
because he won't
improvised, plan just to keep him in line, but not really, doing anything.
He won't kill. Hal would not kill him.
Right. That's why I'm thinking it's a complete bluff, whereas it's not even going to give him an electroshock.
It'll probably incapacitate him. I think Hal would put something in play in case he tested it, but Hal wouldn't kill him.
No, definitely Hal won't kill him.
My honest opinion is that Hal put something in place there to control him.
So you think it is something?
I think it's something. I don't think it's going to kill him. I would not be shocked to find out that if he tried something, it would incapacitate him.
Okay.
Now, when I say incapacitate him, I mean like put him unconscious or something like that. It wouldn't hurt him like permanently or anything. If you follow.
Well, no, yeah, because part of me though I never once thought it would kill him. Hal knew if that actually does do something, Hal made sure that it wouldn't kill him. But part of me does wonder if this is a pure bluff. If that's really just a tracking device, and that's it. Nothing else beyond that.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't. Here's the thing. Yes, I wouldn't be disappointed either. I don't know. I mean, it's speculation, and the one thing I think we're both consistently agreeing on, and I will totally stand by it, I don't think it's going to kill him at all.
Yeah.
But I think Hal's got to convince him it will.
Oh, definitely. And I think Hal did a pretty good job with the way he played it out there. Once again, throwing out there, it should maybe if I guessed your weight right, and just the way he played it, that to me has that kind of, bluff feel to it. But again, that's the voice in my head hearing how he's saying it. Who knows? It could actually be a real device. Which, if that's the case, cool. If it's not, cool. I think it's one of those win-win situations.
I'm thinking of the DC television universe and how you would do a Hal Jordan series. I would put this on TV.
Oh, the way this story is?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we think about the way that the ship going from planet to planet and stuff like that. You've got, each issue's an episode. I mean, this kind of stuff is great.
Oh, big time. And that was the neat thing about the Green Lantern animated series that they had, where they were in the ship and they were traveling and they had the nice little cast of characters going on within, with your reds and your greens working together, and just everything they had going on. That was a cool adventure. This is that same type of feel, that same type of vibe, and to be honest, the ship kind of looks very similar in style. So,
live action though, in the DC television universe, do it this way. The reason why is it separates itself from the film, which seems to be, an inconsistent part as far as people view it. But I also think it separates itself from the other programs. Like when you're going space, it's different automatically. Yet there's a reason for it to go to Earth every so often, so you can do the crossovers and these characters knowing each other. But it's also, it gives this show something different from the other two.
Yeah.
Yet still feeling very uniquely Green Lantern. So I think this would work, honestly, as a television. So I would watch this every week.
and in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it'd be cool with these characters. I love these characters. And to your point, is it too close to the animated series if you do it that way? Maybe. I don't know. I think the fact that if you do it with him on the run and drop you in the status quo where, as a television viewer, you don't know why he's on the run and what happened, you flesh that out gradually, it's kind of a cool way to put this on television. I just think. I think it's a cool way because it adds, like how we loved with Arrow the flashbacks.
Yes.
This gives you a reason. I wouldn't do it the exact same way, but it gives you a reason to want to know more of the backstory. With Flash, I always want to know more of the backstory. What happened to his mom? That's always a cool thing as we found that out. So it's great that this would give the show a premise for that. I would love to see. I just want to see the hard traveling heroes. I just really do.
That's what you want, and I agree with you. I want to see that as well.
That's good stuff. Our next discussion is going to be Sinestro, issue number 15. The writer is Cullen Bunn. Artist is Ethan Van Sciver. The colorist is Jason Wright. Letterer is Dave Sharp. Cover Brad Walker. Drew Hennessy. Wright. And the Green Lantern 75th Anniversary variant covers by Ryan Sook. The assistant editor is Andrew Marino. The editor is Mike Cotton, and the group editor is Eddie Berganza. And apologies in advance for any name butchery. I do want to say something. First of all, it's great to see Ethan Van Sciver doing an issue of any Green Lantern title. I've always loved his work there. But I've got to remark on, I love the writing of Cullen Bunn and the color work of Jason Wright. It just seems like everything Jason Wright's on, there's a certain level of color that I get used to. Like, remember Moose Ballman, when Moose Ballman was on? Like, you knew when Moose Ballman was on something. Art Lyon, who's a longtime friend of the show. When his work is on Gene Ha's work, there's a certain, signature color. I'm starting with certain colorists to get to know their style and what they bring to a book. I think it's because you and I shout out creative teams, I start to notice, oh, yeah, now I see it. And I love that because I'm not good at that. I'm really not. There's certain ones where I'm starting to notice it, and I want to get better at it because I love when I can start distinguishing the work of certain individuals on projects. Really, I'm a big fan of Jason Wright's color work.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, and it's the Ethan Van Sciver Wright combo is really cool tag team. I agree. I'm going to completely co-sign what you said. And once again, this is an amazing looking book with an absolutely wonderful story. I was very excited, right from the get-go. I started cheering because I saw the blue ring, and I'm like, yes, Saint Walker!
I've been wondering where Saint Walker is. You know what I like about all the titles that are going on right now? We're gradually filling in the pieces parts of where everybody's gone and what's been happening with them in light of what happened to the Green Lantern Corps. Sinestro has become it's been a must-read title, but the status quo shift has made Sinestro in its own way. It's a major centerpiece in the DC universe right now. And I love with Sinestro's need to have control and be a part of order really adds to this. This is an amazing companion piece to Green Lantern right now. It really does feel like they're almost mirror images of each other, the two books.
Yeah, it was neat because, again, art style, what we're talking about, just one of the things I always like about Ethan Van Sciver's artwork is just the little details that go into just the background pieces and just those little minute moments, like when the flies and the various bugs are flying around the different people's faces. It really does accentuate just just how nasty it is there and how much, it's that kind of rotted decay type of, visuals going through your head. But you look at the details just in one little bug and he keeps repeating that over and over and over again. And you're like, dang, that is awesome. Yeah.
This is another one where the great artwork here has led to this sense of a vastness to the universe.
Yeah.
Like, I loved the whole layout of the planet Arklu. Again, identifying sectors. I actually want to start knowing more about the sector map.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's neat because I like they open with showing you 3 suns. So there's going to be surface water issues on a planet that has 3 massive suns right there. It's going to be dried out. It's going to be desert, and you're going to run into these issues. Now, apparently, when those lanterns before, things were probably better there because the lantern was helping them. Once again, we've got another environment where there is no lantern helping. You've got these people that are in a really bad situation, and St. Walker's powers are limited because of he needs the green presence to accentuate his powers. He needs to work with another ring. Just him by himself doesn't completely do the job. And I like how the fact that even though he doesn't have the same power levels, he's still trying to do what he can to help. And that was a really cool visual showing him with a backpack satchel type thing with all those water satchels in there for him, that he's passing around to the different people.
He is... I was so sad when he had kind of gone off and been like, you know what, I lost hope. And I loved watching him on Mogo and trying to find himself again. Now that he has, to see him confident again, even with the lanterns missing, and trying to do something. This is so the character that I've grown to know and love. I love his journey. Like, in the journey I'm referencing with him, too, I love that was part of his journey. I'm loving how it ended, because we knew ultimately that's where it was going to go, but it is the journey. It's the path of getting there and seeing him rise up again and not knowing how or when it was going to happen or what was going to institute it, but the fact that it did and then it pays off well and then you love this character again. This was one of the better developed alternate lanterns when the whole, multiple color core came out of there. This is one of those guys that if they ever drop the ball and aren't using him in some capacity, it will be a huge mistake. This character matters. This will be the one that fans will talk about at every convention. Hey, when are you going to use St. Walker again?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure he usually is brought up when, whenever they have the Green Lantern panels. And he's one of the characters that people throw out, hey, where's he going to be? What about him? It's, him and the Reds are 2 of the, the people out there that they throw out there because they did such a great job developing the character and, giving us some backstory and just that who they are. There's already an emotional connection that you have. You think back to just this opening sequences when you first see him standing there and you see him with the bowl of water. You immediately know, okay, there's St. Walker. All right, this is cool. You immediately got that connection with your buddy and your pal, and just going from those cool moments to when Lobo's hunting him, you're like, oh no, because initially I gotta tell you, there was a moment of fear, like they better not kill him, because I was getting mad, but. You get then almost immediately that he's not there to kill him. He's there to take him. He's got to take him alive. Okay, so he's not going to kill St. Walker. You kind of breathe a sigh of relief for a moment.
I love seeing Lobo with the yellow lantern symbol on him. But then him saying, no, get rid of that. You aren't controlling me. Lobo needing to be a free agent is really one of the things that I absolutely adore about him.
And I 100% agree with you. The look of Yellow Lantern Lobo is absolutely awesome. But for me, this sequence, I loved why he got the ring offer, because it's... Talk about an agent of fear. Mm-hmm. He, has this mob charging him. He's like, okay, originally I'm not supposed to kill you, but guess what? You took arms. You're no longer civilians. And you just see him not only tearing through them, but then he goes up to one of those water satchels and just smashes the water satchel. And once again, in the artwork, you see just the people dropping weapons, the look of sheer terror on their face as he's destroying this only water that these people have probably seen for a while. That for me was a great moment, and a perfect capstone of it is the fact that the yellow ring just appears because of the ability to instill great fear. It was a really cool moment, but I love the fact that not only does he cut off his finger to reject it, it's been multiple rings since this has happened.
I love when we see the ship come in the background as he's carrying St. Walker away, and then we see him to Sinestro, and we see that whole... To me, the Sinestro Corps as a group is one of the keys. We've seen that group reborn, so to speak, because it had died out and we'd lost some of the Sinestro Corps members. We see some of the key players from the past. But to me, one of the benefits of this book has been the newer ones that have risen up due to the Sinestro Corps needing to rebuild and Sinestro needing to really retake focus of it again. I love that because of the nature of the Sinestro Corps, all is not well in those relationships. You can't trust everybody. It's great.
Yeah, there's definitely kind of the nature of the Sinestro Corps, the nature of the characters that it's drawn to. It's drawn to instilling fear. It's not drawn to the nicest of people. So there's going to be just this, question of whether you can double cross. And you always have to seem strong. Sinestro can never seem weak to his people. And I like the fact that when Lobo's giving him the business, Sinestro never appears to back down, never stands down. He's like, hey, and even he kind of allows Lobo to talk back to him, but he didn't back down to Lobo. It's just, it's one of those things where he's addressing, this is just Lobo's style. This is who he is. It's kind of diffusing how Lobo is, just being disrespectful to Sinestro, but it's not, he's not making himself look weak by allowing it to happen. I thought it was a really cool balance that you show, and it, again, the level of strategery that Sinestro always has with everything he does, what he says, acts, and plays out, how he is and how he gets from point A to point B. There's always a plan. He's got that level of thinking that kind of like that Batman-esque thinking where there's always next step that he's going to do.
Why does a yellow wing hover over my window every time you say strategery? I don't understand it. No, it's actually, wait, I was just going to say, it's actually red. Ooh. I'm going to start spitting out stuff. That's not great. I think with my own head, I wanted to see that it was a Sinestro Corps one. Lissa as a character is so fantastic because, she's creepy. There's very few characters that are consistently creepy anymore. She has a whole new creep factor to her every time you see her interact with people. It's funny how Lobo holds his own with her. And in that end, I'm like, girl, you're pretty formidable, but this is Lobo. Yeah. I am so sad that book is being canceled. I love Lobo.
I absolutely agree with you. I love this book. And I love the character Lobo, and I was never a fan of this guy, in the past. And this has been this character, this just the way he's playing it out, the way he's being written, I really do dig this. And you talk about the swagger, you talk about the strut, Lobo's got that as well.
My favorite bit in this whole book was Sinestro and St. Walker having their little conversation, their little chat. The part that I really enjoyed about that was he's trying to really convince St. Walker that he's benevolent. And just say, you know what, look, I'm going to try this mental tactic one way with him and show him that what he thinks about the Sinestro Corps. And actually what I like about that is it's genuine. That really is who Sinestro is. He's about keeping order. So in his mind, keeping an organized, ordered society and showing them that while you're under my rule, you will survive and survive well, but you need to keep in mind, I go away, this goes away. So there's an order to that. There's rules to that. And those rules are totally reliant on him and the Sinestro Corps, particularly these yellow manhunters, which I think is brilliant.
Oh, I think it's going to come back and bite him. I think it's not going to be a good... I think in the end, there's a reason the Manhunters didn't work the first time, and we're going to see that again. Where I think these Manhunters are going to shift into the, not so much as the kill all humans, mindset that the first, Manhunters had, but it's going to be something equally negative where it's going to be the instilling of fear. And it's going to be death and that, but it's not going to be to conquer people. It's going to be to the generation of fear for some. I think the Manhunter experiment's not going to work for Sinestro as well.
The growing science unit that's developing here, especially with last issue and how we got to see they picked up a brand new member who's able to dissect people the way that he is and take a look at how they work throughout the inside and how that can ultimately be very painful to the person if they're not completely sedated. When you see that creepy crowd come working on in here, and realizing that, listen, I tried to give you a chance to find some hope here. You're not going to do it? We'll find out what's holding you back.
Classic Sinestro moment, man. Because I love that sequence, how it played out, where, the Manhunters show up, then they open the box and you see the food and all the people like, yay! And even St. Walker's like, wow. And he's like, have faith in Sinestro, And he's talking about how Warworld is equipped with terraforming equipment. Soon, the planet will be able to sustain its own crops and its flora and fauna, sustaining life. And I'm like, wow, this is really great. And then even though throughout this, he's like, I wish I could help. It just, the ring only works with green, willpower. I understand. It just that one panel, I knew right then and there, oh, this is not going to go well for St. Walker. Just one, again, the way that's coloring, how they've got the great shade, the shading of half of Sinestro's face. And then even when he kind of does that casual, putting the arm over his shoulders, like, however, I think you'll find my will is quite convincing. And I'm like, oh, this is just, they're going to torture this guy and they're going to vivisection and dissect him and just do all sorts of nasty, nasty stuff to St. Walker. I feel, I'm laughing, but I feel bad for this guy because St. Walker's a cool guy, but yeah, he's in trouble now.
How will Sornik feel about all that too?
That is going to be the interesting piece. Will she even know about this going on?
That's going to be an interesting part, too, Sornik and her role in the Corps, because, that's going to be something that she's going to have to address and deal with. Is she really becoming one of them or not?
Yeah, and because she's right now focused so much, because we saw in the last issue, she's focused on finding the cure for those people who have been kind of nulled out, where they've been, stripped of their emotions. That's actually how we even see her new partner, where he can do the vivisection, just the psychic vivisection, where he dissects the bodies while they're still alive and then puts them back together again. So we're seeing she's focused on that, and part of me wonders how much of her is going to know what's going on to St. Walker. But her partner obviously is going to be a part of it. So he's going to be keeping stuff from her. And it's going to be kind of interesting. That's the team-up partnership I want to see more of.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I want to see that partnership develop more because I'm finding it very interesting. This Cullen Bunn really is delivering some terrific writing, and I'm sad some of the books that he's doing are being canceled because it just seems to be every title that Cullen Bunn's involved with I'm really digging. He's involved with Lost Armies, involved with Lobo, involved with this book. These are really great titles that I'm really digging right now, and two of those are going by the wayside, and I'm really not happy about that because they're books that I'm thoroughly enjoying, including this one. Really is a writer that's hitting all of the beats that I'm enjoying as a reader. And, Lobo is a concept that really found a great way to modernize it while not losing what makes Lobo cool. Like, I'm actually more interested now in reading previous Lobo because I like this Lobo. Yeah. Knowing that it's going to be a little dated only because of the fact that it was written for a certain era. But I found that the Lobo concept, now that I get it, is one that it's kind of like Deathstroke. I'm very interested in Deathstroke because Deathstroke's so good. I'm finding the same thing with Lobo. Like, I'm very interested in reading more Lobo. Like, I find that the issue that I read each month is not quite enough for me. I want more Lobo. So getting a double dose of Lobo this month is really cool. It's like, it's a neat thing about it.
Oh, yeah.
So I love when characters work out like that. You want to talk Lost Army?
Oh, God, yeah. Our next discussion will be Green Lantern Lost Army number 4. The writer is Cullen Bunn with artist Javier Pena. The colorist is Chris Sotomayor. Letterer Dave Sharp, cover by Guillaume Marsh, with assistant editor is Andrew Marino, editor is Mike Cotton, and group editor is Eddie Berganza.
Looking at Lost Army, one of the things that I really love about this book is it's a sense of danger in the sense that who's still alive in the Lantern Corps and who isn't? Who does the book and the company consider expendable and who don't they? This is a book, I can't tell you how sad I am that this has been canceled. It's because I want to see this story play out to its natural conclusion, and I'm hoping the powers that be at DC rethink this, or give it some miniseries or something to allow it to finish. I don't want this book to be folded into the main title, only because of the fact that the story is so rich. And the danger is, like, when I see Aresia choking in the beginning, I love the character. The fact that Jon Stewart saved her. I know it happened on the same page, but I'm immediately like, oh my gosh, they could really kill off anybody in this.
Yeah.
Because we don't know who's alive and who's not.
And we don't know really when this, well, we learn in this issue when it's going on, and we kind of figure out, what's the mystery behind them. We still don't know how they got pulled here or anything that's going to play out. So there's still some stories left to be told. And initially when I heard they were canceling, I was hoping it was going to be storyline driven, that it would go from Lost Army into like Green Lantern Corps or something like that, and do a process that way. And I'm worried that that's not the case. I'm worried that this is just ending, and we're going to have this big gap of a story as to what happens to these lanterns, what happened to the Corps. Now, eventually things are going to get explained, we know, in Green Lantern, because that's part of what Hal's doing, and looking for the answer. But I want this story. I want what these characters are going through. I want to see them get out of this jail that they're in, and get out of this universe and just continue on, and either get back to our universe or continue on being lost somewhere else. This the Green Lantern Lost Army is a really cool title that I don't understand why it's going away, because it's been telling great stories, and it's building to something really huge within the Green universe.
Yeah, do you have any, when you're reading this, can you understand why a fan of Green Lantern Corps or any of the other previous Green Lantern books wouldn't be reading this?
I don't get it. I honestly don't. This, for me, has been some classic Green Lantern stuff. I love the way John's written here. Mm-hmm. John, they're doing a really stand-up job with John, and even Guy. Especially in this issue, where it eventually gets to the point where their rings are completely depowered, so they don't have the translators. But there's certain characters that have learned to speak human, that have learned to speak Earth dialogue, and you get to have them have some interaction with some people. And it's kind of just the Guy Gardner Kilowog moments were really cool, in that how they're having their conversation as to what the course needs to do. I thought that was a great backdrop, and then along with John, having his conversation, and it was just the way they were playing it out. It was a really cool layout.
You add into this whole thing, though, everything you're saying. First of all, you've got Kilowog on there, a major mainstay, who's being very well written as well in the Green Lantern universe. It's why I'm baffled by it. I'm really baffled by it like this. If this was bad Green Lantern, I would sit there and go, okay, or even like a really different take on Green Lantern books. You kind of would look at that and go, okay, that's why. They really did something experimental here, and it just didn't work. This is great Green Lantern. Yeah. I don't get it. I'm ready to bang my head against a wall. What I love about it is we just talked about three mainstays right there. On top of that, you got Krona in this. You got Relic in this. You got Aresia in this. But you've got characters like Zvril Vrek, who is endlessly fascinating, and 2-6.
2-6.
Yeah, these are just really cool lanterns. It's got everything I love about a core book. A core book is not just about the main characters. You got to have them. Our mainstays, our people we're used to. You need to have those for the comfort level. But you also, along the way, you should be getting to know more about some of the other lanterns. It does that on all thrusters in a situation that's really covering the expanses of, this is a brand new space. They don't know where they are, space and time, how they got there. That's how the book drops us into. And as you get to know more, to me, the Corona bit was brilliant. The fact that we get to see a much younger Relic as well is a home run to me. It's everything I've been digging lately.
Well, and it was neat because I love the battle, because they're dealing with the light pirates, just draining their rings faster than they can do anything with it. And it shows just that level of, backs up against the wall, knuckle up. And I love the moment they're like, get the Relic ship. And he's like, Relic's like, we got to go. And they take off, leaving them. And yes, I agree with why they had to do it, because it's one of those, they had to fall back, and hopefully they're planning a recovery rescue mission, hopefully, but you're not 100% certain what's going to happen with these two in a ship together. You got Relic and Krona in a mix, in that ship together. You're not exactly sure where that's going to play out. And it was, again, it was just some great classic Green Lantern, really cool core moments of them fighting. And as 2/6 is getting drained, Gardner flies in for the save. You've got Arisia going down, John flies in, and it's that you watch each other's back, you fight until the last moment, and there were some really great moments. And I was like, this is a clean Green Lantern's book. I don't get why this is going away. I do not understand that.
This would be a great video game. And here's what I mean. They have Star Wars has a new Battlefront game coming out where you've got multiple players coming in as the Rebellion, and they're going to be it's all online. So, you jump in and you're part of the Rebellion and you're going on missions with other members of the Rebellion and you're part of the Rebel Army, kind of going in. With this, you would have the same thing, but it would be in space. I mean, imagine doing this, Lost Army, as a game where you pop in and you're one of the Lanterns. Whether you're one of the mainstays, the people that you normally know, or your own created lantern, and you pop in there, and you're fighting online against overwhelming odds where you've got to rely on the other lanterns in your squad to make it out.
Yeah.
And the better you act as a squad of lanterns, like this group does, to your point, the more your chances are of surviving and completing the mission objectives. Like, wouldn't you play that? I love every minute of that. I mean, the intensity alone would be great because you'd have to develop some skills over time. But also, you would want to start playing with some of the same people because you would want to start developing a group strategy. This would make a great game.
When I used to paintball, we used to do something we called the Alamo scenario. And it's the way you take what the Alamo is any paintball field, they always have some type of fort. So you take the one team and their job is to hold the fort. But it's not just a team. It's not even numbers. You actually dramatically cut, your team in half and give half your team to the other team, or even more than that. You do like a 4 or 5 on everybody. So there's no way you're going to survive. There's no way you're actually going to win. But you do a very short time window where the other team has 15 minutes to take the fort, and they got to completely eliminate everybody and take the fort. And you're sitting there fighting this scenario knowing there's no way you're going to survive. You're going to die, and you're just sitting there just shooting constantly. It's just a constant fire, but you end up getting, like where your team is actually doing some really neat fields of fires. Like being my buddies who used to paintball a lot, we would do this, and we actually won a couple times because they couldn't take the fort in time, but there was a lot of times when you just completely get just wiped out and you're decimated and you're like, okay, that was still fun.
See, the paintball thing that you're talking about right there is exactly why I mean this would be a great game. A lot of your online games, like, I'm not very good at that. Like, it's very easy for me to sit there and say, well, this is what you do with it, and this is how you play online. I'm not good with that online. Like, I'm playing Destiny. It's Bungie's online shooter. And what I love about it is it has a story mode. So for people like me, I'm a terrible online player. I would love to get better at online games like that, but I'm not the one that jumps into the squad. I think because of the fact that for me, the first draw to video games for me is story. I love to follow the story. I love to feel like I'm impacting a story by my actions in it. I love games that are online with an online component where I can play with others, but I'm not very good at it. So I need to play with patient people. It would be great, though, to play with a group of, listeners or friends and jump on with, listeners and friends, because our listeners are our friends. But I would love to jump online with them and play a Green Lantern Corps game like that, where each of us was a part of that, especially playing with some people maybe who are a little better squad-based online games. But even you, like when you're talking about like being able to, pull some of your experiences with paintball, like, exactly. We would need somebody like that mental piece. You would be great at the online shooting stuff or the online games like that because of the fact that you like squad-based in real life.
One of my City of Heroes friends that I had was this kid, and I do say kid because when I first met him, he was 13 years old, and it was hysterical because this kid took command of this team. Now, most of the people were my age, on our different superhero group, and we're all following complete commands of this little kid because he knew exactly what to do. He's like, tanks, go up front, you're on the healing, bam, bam, and he's just throwing out the commands, and we're all just completely following instructions. And it was one of, whenever I teamed up with this kid, it was some of the best team ups I ever had, and it was, you go through these, the long term, missions, and just where it's a mission after mission after mission, where it's just a constant building on the story, and you're just like, man, and it was, you get done with a couple of hours of gameplay, you're like, yeah, I am invincible. It was some neat stuff, and that's the kind of stuff I wish I could really find another story where I could do that type of, it's the team dynamic, it's the story dynamic, it's the shoot 'em up dynamic. I miss that kind of story. I miss that kind of gameplay.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to see that the team that's putting together the quote unquote like spiritual sequel to it is trying to get the rights to the original City of Heroes to bring that back for that reason. Yeah. I think it's great. I like DC Universe Online. I've played that. I've played Champions Online. I really like that too. Both of those aren't City of Heroes, but they do have that, like DC Universe Online has quite a bit of group missions associated with them. As a matter of fact, there's stories devoted to group missions. And I don't play those enough. I really want to jump back into that game and start playing some of those more because of it, because it'd be great in DC Universe to start doing it. But you were better than that at that than I was in City of Heroes. Like, you got really into the whole squad-based part of City of Heroes. I think you'd like DC Universe Online because of that. That is part of your better MMOs. They have that end game piece to it. Yeah. Star Wars The Old Republic has that too. And they have these flashpoints. What I love about the flashpoints are they've got everything I love. It's big story-based mission, but the flashpoints, you have to do them with a team. So nice. You have that story concept of this sense of huge story progression, which City of Heroes had those too, with the sense that there's a real impact and you get real things at the end with them. So that's the kind of thing that I really like, and most of your good MMOs have that.
The point of do tangents like that.
Well, the point of tangents like that, honestly, it's where a book starts bleeding over. So it is one of the reasons why I'm so baffled this book isn't doing better. I don't know what the actual numbers are on this one. I was floored when I saw they were canceling this one. I'm like, what? There were a number of them that came up. I'm like, okay, Lobo, I get it. It's experimental. It's maybe doesn't have this big of a draw just because of the nature of the character, but wow, what a fantastic book. What a shame. Omega Men, same thing. These are books I'm loving, so don't get me wrong. I think they're terrific books. I was very sad at every cancellation, but once you start canceling a Green Lantern, Gotham by Midnight's being canceled. What is going on? I mean, these are great. Every single title that was on the chopping block list was one that I'm really loving. And I'm really not just saying it for the show because I'm not paid by DC, so I could care less. They're really books that I'm upset that are being canceled because I love them. Yes. And I'm baffled that numbers-wise, when you've got a Batman-related book and a Green Lantern-related book being canceled, there's something wrong. Especially when they're being delivered with this quality. If they weren't quality, it's a different sort of story. Both of those are quality titles. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, the Jon Stewart flashback sequences.
Oh.
I love it when they go into Jon, especially when you get the writers who really know how to write Jon and know what he goes through. The concept of you never leave a man behind. We're seeing it, in the current issue. We're seeing it where it's coming back from the past. And just, again, we talk about the fighting, where they're up against overwhelming odds. It's three guys going through, the one's injured, they're carrying the one guy, and as they're just getting ready, they're on us, the one guy gets killed, another one gets killed. And it was that kind of that desperation, last stand type of mindset, but it is Jon, being Jon, looking after his team. I loved this sequence, and I loved how they changed the art style for it to accentuate it is the flashback.
I love the filtering of it. The color work filtering of that one. To me, that is a great show of choice in a storytelling. The artwork's a little bit different. The color filtering's a little different. It really showcases that it's a flashback, but then pulls us right back into the same color filters that we saw in the rest of the issue when they're in their prison there. That part was really awesome to me.
Yeah, and you feel bad for his crew because both those other two guys are dead. And it's one of those moments where you can't save everybody, and you can't, but I like the fact that, again, in the story, Jon's sitting there trying to get help for his friend. He's giving up, hey, just give him medical attention. I won't do any, I won't put up and he's about to say, I won't put up a fight, thump, he gets whumped in the back of the head. So that's, again, another story. I'd like to see the flashback follow-up on that. Mm-hmm. I'd love to see, Jon trapped, as a POW because, that's where that led to. That led to Jon being captured. And I'm assuming his two friends didn't make it. but you never know exactly how the story is going to play out. And those are the stuff I hope we still can get. But again, talk about a cool moment going from that into then right back to the prison. And it's kind of neat that we see, Salak can speak human, and that he's in the cell with John, and those two are now. It's that kind of like okay, we're starting to get the team back together here. We've got a couple of us here. Let's start regrouping. And it was as soon as you saw a bunch of lanterns together, you're like, okay, there's a chance here. They don't have any powers, but they're still lanterns. Where can this go?
Do you think that's really Salak? I think it is. I like the fact that we're getting to see much more of our lanterns, like Badge and the rest of the team, the ones that I wanted to know where a lot of these characters were. I'm glad this is starting to flesh it out. I'm glad they're doing it in pieces like this. This, to me, is exactly how I was hoping this series would play out, where we'd start to learn the fate of some of our favorites as we came through and to see them band together. I love the overwhelming odds. To me, the superhero books, when you've got large teams like this is why Legion of the Superheroes was popular for so many years. They always had a large cast of characters, but did a great job of putting them in situations that showcased the interpersonal relationships of the team, but also staggering and overwhelming odds that would require a team that size in order to accomplish. Whether it's them being divided into smaller groups to handle the situation, or the monumental threat was so big that it required everybody. That kind of stuff is fantastic to me. This book really showcases this. If you're not reading it, please start. And if you love it, please get the word out that you love it, because this is a title that's worth saving. It really is worth saving. I'm baffled that we're even discussing. I don't know how you can read this issue and go, oh, man, this book should be canceled. Yeah. You got to tell a friend. We really need to start as comic fans. If there's one thing we can do for comics in general, and I know that it seems like kind of a weird thing to say, well, we pay for the comics. Why do we have to do all that? Because of the fact that this is a fan-based medium. We need to band together and save some of these books. Tell people about them. We need to get new readers for these titles. And the only way to do that is by telling people how cool this stuff is. I'm not saying lie. I'm not saying butter it up, because here's the thing. People will tell that when they jump into a book. If it's a book you're not liking and you're kind of selling them a bill of goods, they're going to pick that up when they go to read the book anyway. I'm saying when you love an issue, like I love this issue right now, that's why I'm podcasting about it. You and I wanted to talk the Green Books. This one in particular, I saved last for a reason, because I knew I was going to start going off like this on it. I'm baffled this book is being canceled. I don't get it. I love this book. There's a mistake here, because it is a Lantern book. It's everything that I love about the Lantern books, and it needs to be here. It's just as valid. I'm glad Omega Men was saved because it's a part of this universe. I want this one saved too. We've got to band together as fans, and either, if it's not saved, we've got to get multiple miniseries for this or something. I want to read this whole story the way that it was intended. Cullen Bunn had a plan for this.
Yeah.
He's already said that. I want to see the plan come to fruition the way that it was intended, not cut short. This is too big of a story with characters that matter to me. I want this to play out. If you're not alone with that, really start posting places where you get people that are fans. We got Blogavoa is a wonderful friend of ours. Start posting there. Let's get some people being aware of the fact that, hey, those are a great fan community. If you know of Green Lantern fan communities on the internet, let's get people talking. Comic communities in general, though, are the ones you want to reach out to, where it's maybe a lapsed Green Lantern fan who hasn't been reading the books. Tell them why you love this book. And it can't just always come from us, because Jim and I have the reputation, they love everything. Well, that's not true. We pick the books that we want to talk about because we're excited about them. But we aren't always the best advocate because we have that reputation. You guys, on the other hand, can go in there and be ninja-like. And we really need you to do it for the titles that you're loving.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and this is one of those books that, you can very clearly see that they're building. And this is something that, and that's why I was hoping with the cancellation announcement, it was story driven, because I was hoping they're building for the return of the Corps, especially at the end of this issue, where we're in this giant prison and you're seeing all the different lanterns. And I got to admit, when Nemux was first being drained of all his energy, I was so terrified that was Badge. Because the way he's drawn and being drained all that, I didn't see. And obviously in the artwork, his name is right next to it. Had I been paying more attention, I would have seen that. But he kind of does have that little, squirrel-looking-esque, especially a squirrel being tortured. So I was initially worried, going, "Oh my God, is that Badge?" And then I see, oh, it's Nemux. Okay, and then of course next page you see Badge. You're like squirrel. But it was those kind of, again, that emotional moments where you're like, whoa, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's that guy. I remember him, and then you see, Badge hit doing his thing, and you start seeing the build up. You start seeing this moment where, okay, we're going to have some cool Lantern moments. We're probably going to lose some of these guys, in, male and female, in this upcoming battle, but they're going to go down and they're going to go down swinging. And those are the kind of moments those are the core moments. The Green Lantern Corps has a really high body count, but they always survive and they always push through. And it's, they're going to fight until, to get fight until the bitter end. And that's something that I was like, man, I gotta know. I want to know how this story was supposed to play out.
Nemux, I didn't see that either. So I was like you. When I first turned the page, because I think what ends up happening, you see this Lantern being tortured, and I thought it was Badge, and because I just saw it quickly, and he's smaller, on the page, so you don't really see that at first. But then when you see the close-ups and start to see, the way that his head, the antenna on his head, and those type of things, like, oh my gosh, that wasn't him. But it was because of the fact that the rays were shining. You didn't realize the skin color of the character until then you go back and look at him like, oh wait, it just says right there, Nemux. I shared the same kind of, oh my god, did they just do what I think they did? I also love that our Lantern that can change shape right now can't, because of the way that he's very much a blank face. And that was something that I loved, that attention to detail. Seeing him that way was almost a little creepier, because we're so used to seeing him so expression-filled because of the fact that he's dealing with the emotions of whatever Lantern he's trying to be at that time. And we see how that affects him. To see him this way and to see him so calming, he looks very Dr. Manhattan. Yes, and carries himself that way, where it's almost like there's an emotional disconnect because of the fact that he hasn't really taken on the form of somebody else.
Yeah, and I'm glad they did throw that out there, because, that was something I was immediately thinking, okay, he should be able to do something beyond just, being trapped, because he's one of those races that have a natural power. But right here, quick explanation, couple panels, he can't do it. He can't, if he activates those powers, if he has, the amount of sorrow and death and destruction going on around him, that will crush him. That will destroy him. So I like the fact, a really good explanation for that, a really good usage of it. But again, I always think it's cool when they have these moments where people can't speak the same language, especially like with 2/6, where she's just talking in the 0111 0111 just talking in the binary language. You're like, I wish I could understand you. I'm sorry, and it was again a kind of just that alien coolness that is the Green Lantern Corps.
Holy caffeine!
Once again, we are sponsored on this episode by DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Remember, over at DCBService.com, you're going to want to be checking out over the next week for the brand new deals that are coming out in October. Over at InStockTrades.com, I want to remind you real quick about the deals of the week, and to check out the Joker Endgame hardcover, 50% off, only $14.99. Astro City Confession hardcover, the new edition, 45% off, only $13.74. Why the Last Man trade paperback, book 3, 45% off, only $10.99. Speaking of the show, I want to remind everyone about the show website. It's RagingBullets.com. Be sure to check out news on when the new episodes are going to be released. That's your spot. It does feed into our Twitter. We have an amazing Facebook group community. We have a Facebook fan page, but that Facebook group community I want to jump back to. Amazing group of people. They're constantly posting things about what's going on in comics and pop culture, news, events. I honestly look there first now. And we do share that with the InfiniteComics.com site. It's a great partnership. We have a wonderful community of people that are fans of comics, and it's a great place to share, find out about blogs, to find out about television episodes. They do hangouts regularly revolving around our favorite shows and movies and things. The people that are there really have taken control of the group. I'm a visitor. It's honestly, it's become a community unto its own, and it's due to the quality of people that are there. So when I shout that out, I'm proud to have our banner on it, but it really is the people that are there that have made that a thriving and rich community, and I want to thank them for that, because that's really what it's all about. And I just love that fan base interaction. We are on Google+. We have personal Facebook pages. I'm on the PlayStation Network. Feel free to add me there. All of that stuff's on our website in the About Us section, so feel free to connect with us any way that's positive for you. We do have a show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388 4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you part of the show, and feel free to call in anytime. We want to get your commentary on our podcast. Jim, next week we are joined we haven't done one of these in a while, a pop culture and whatnot. We are joined by longtime friend of the show, an amazing artist, Freddie E. Williams II, as we talk about the first episode of The Infinite Adventures of Jonas Quantum. We will see you then.
Bye!
On November 13th, Sean Whalen was asked to stop constantly talking about comic books. That request came from his wife. Deep down, he knew she was right, but he also knew that someday he would find someone that would talk to him. With nowhere else to go, he appeared at the home of his childhood friend Jim Segulin. Sometime earlier, Segulin's boss had requested that he shut up about his comic books and never speak of them again. Can two grown men put out a DC Comics podcast without driving each other crazy? It's Raging Bullets, the DC Comics fan podcast. With Sean Whalen as Dr. Norge, and Jim Segulin as the Sensei of the Whatnot and the Duke of You-Know. It's a spoiler podcast, so they will go in depth into the plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics they are reviewing. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you may better enjoy the show.